there, it's Dave Hompes here and another video on H. pylori. And in this video I want to talk about how H. pylori can cause or at least contribute to symptoms outside the digestive system. In other words, how can a few simple digestive symptoms escalate and potentially spread around the body to cause a whole load of discomfort and problems in pretty much any or every tissue, organ or gland around your body? Well, there are probably four main mechanisms by which H. pylori can create problems in other areas of the body, and I want to explore them in order. The first one is basically that H. pylori can cause nutrient deficiencies, and it does that by reducing the amount of stomach acid that you produce, because it gets in there and it screws into the corkscrews into the stomach tissue, and it damages the cells that help your stomach make acid. And the acid is needed to digest your food. So all of a sudden, after a few weeks or months or possibly even years of H. pylori, you're not digesting your food properly. And this leads to things like iron deficiency or vitamin B12 deficiency. They are the two main nutrients that have been studied, and we know for sure that H. pylori can create depletions or deficiencies in those nutrients. But what does that mean in terms of how you feel? Well, iron is needed for your body to make energy and to transport oxygen around in your blood. So if you don't have enough iron, you're going to feel tired. You might feel weak. You might not be able to focus very well, and you might be very pale in your complexion. Vitamin B12 is a critically important nutrient. It's needed in detoxification, and it's also needed for proper neurological function. And so if you have B12 insufficiencies or outright deficiencies, you can have a lot of neurological symptoms which involve your mood, your memory and your brain function, headaches, neuralgia, which is inflammation of the nerves, and many others. The second way H. pylori can contribute to symptoms elsewhere in your body is because it creates inflammation in your stomach, which can then spread around your body like a fire spreading around the house. So if you think about your stomach as the kitchen and you have a chip pan fire, because that's where the H. pylori is causing all its problems, the immune response and all those inflammatory chemicals that gather around that site of injury where the H. pylori is hanging out can then start to spread around the rest of your body. And you can start to get an inflammatory response, a little bit like you have in your stomach, pretty much anywhere else. And in fact, one of the areas that we know H. pylori can contribute to symptoms is actually in the cardiovascular system. I wrote a whole book on how H. pylori might be a cause of heart disease. And so we see inflammation in the blood vessels. We know H. pylori can create high blood pressure, changes in your blood sugar levels and your insulin levels, and so on and so forth. So we know that the inflammation at one locality in the body can spread around and cause problems elsewhere. The third mechanism relates back to the stomach acid issue. If you have H. pylori and your stomach acid levels fall too low, you open yourself up to developing other infections. So you can end up with a whole bunch of candida, which is a yeast and fungal overgrowth, parasites, or any number of different bacteria overgrowing in your small intestine, and we call that small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO for short. Now, once you've got a whole bunch of those bad bugs hanging out in your small intestine, you can develop something called leaky gut or leaky gut syndrome. In medical terms, it's actually called increased intestinal permeability, but I just want to call it leaky gut because it's just easier, frankly. Now, with leaky gut, it kind of does what it says on the tin. Instead of having a really tight set of junctions or barriers between the cells in your intestine, those barriers start to just open up ever so slightly. And what happens is a whole bunch of toxins from the bacteria, as well as undigested food particles and anything else that you're taking in to your digestive system, can start to leak into your body, literally get from the gut, which is a hollow tube starting here, kind of ending down at the other end, but you start to get things leaking into the blood that shouldn't really be there. What happens then? Well, because those things shouldn't really be in the general circulation, your immune system starts to get overactive and you develop things like allergic symptoms, possibly asthma, aches and pains in your muscles and joints, and all of those toxins and chemicals can start to create direct problems with the way that your nerves, your hormones, and other really important functions in your body actually operate. Finally, the fourth way H. pylori may contribute to symptoms around the body is by causing hormone imbalances. Now, it's really important to understand that when you have millions of little H. pylori bacteria living in your stomach or your upper small intestine, that your body finds that very stressful. And it doesn't really matter what the level of stress or what the source of stress is on your body. It could be mental and emotional stress from life, it could be food allergies, it could be H. pylori or other infections, nutritional deficiencies, etc. Your body responds to stress in the same way. And what happens is your adrenal glands, which sit on top of your kidneys, pump out hormones called stress hormones. And they include things like adrenaline and noradrenaline. In America, they're called epinephrine and norepinephrine. And then we also have hormones such as cortisol as well. And what happens is when those hormones elevate, they can start to create symptoms in their own right. But also there's a secondary effect because those elevated stress hormones can start to wind down or turn down the function of the thyroid gland and also the function or the production of the sex hormones as well. Things like testosterone, the estrogens and progesterone. Now, once you have a whole set of different hormone imbalances because of that initial stress, then you end up with a whole bunch of symptoms that are actually caused by the hormonal imbalances. But you see, the hormonal imbalances wouldn't be there if it wasn't for the stress on your body. And in this case, the stress is H. pylori. So all that inflammation is seen by your body as extremely stressful. Cortisol goes up, thyroid drops down, sex hormone production becomes imbalanced, and now you've got a whole bunch of symptoms relating to your hormonal system as well. So just to recap, H. pylori has the ability to cause or contribute to many different symptoms in your body, not just digestive symptoms. And these are the symptoms that your doctor probably will not tell you about. So first of all, H. pylori can create nutritional deficiencies because it lowers stomach acid levels. Second, it can create difficulties by having lots of bacteria overgrowing in the gut and by creating a leaky gut. And that's where all the stuff that shouldn't really get into your body gets in and starts to cause problems. We have the escalation and the spread of inflammation around the body, a little bit like a fire spreading around a house. And then we have the stress, which leads to the hormonal imbalances as well. So I hope that goes some way to help you understand why you might have a whole bunch of really seemingly innocuous or unrelated symptoms that may well be caused by the H. pylori that you've been diagnosed with. My name is Dave Hompes, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Thank you.